So, while we wait for the lovely Dr. Lon here. You know what's funny is as we get promoting for this class, this is one of my ultimate favorite workshops that we do. And I had such a hard time getting people to come to this class because everyone thought we were going to be doing cardio the whole time. Everyone was like, listen, I did my cardio, I'm done.
We have done that before though, like made people actually like work out for a little bit.
Oh yeah, those of you who've been here, you know. Yeah. It's so fun. See, look at this. Anybody who it's the first seminar ever with us. Love it.
Yay.
Awesome. Anybody who's been here 2 or more classes, 3 or more classes, 4 or more classes. Yes. So here's what's fun fact. This is Michelle's been to every class but the hard class, and she's very excited for this class. So it's gonna be really good. Yes. Okay. I know. Trust, she's got all the prizes already. Trust me.
I have one single one.
Yeah, you got an award. That's right.
Sure.
I know. Okay, so I want you guys to do me a favor. This is this not only hits me personally. Those of you guys who know my dad's story, you guys know this hits me personally. But just to show the impact this topic has, if you yourself or someone that you know has been diagnosed with heart disease, put your hand up for me. If you or someone you know has been diagnosed with high blood pressure, put your hand up. If you or someone you know have been diagnosed with high cholesterol, put your hand up. You guys notice every hand goes up. You see that? So the impact of this seminar is that, and as I talk to people about this, when do you guys think the best time to learn information about heart disease and high cholesterol and high blood pressure is? When you get the diagnosis or before? Like, you don't have to have a heart disease to be here tonight to listen to this. Does that make sense? Like, the whole purpose of every seminar is to make sure you learn the information so you don't end up in this position. So, like, everybody's hands go up because you guys all know people who have unfortunately been in the position where they've been, struck by this. So, like, I want you to do me a favor just for a minute. I want you to close your eyes. I'm going to walk you through something. I want you to imagine that there is this threat that's inside your body that is slowly attacking your arteries, that each day your arteries and your blood start to thicken and you have no control. That just because your parents had this condition, that now you're going to suffer the same fate they did, and there's nothing you can do about it. And the only solution that you're given is to be on a drug for the rest of your life. I want you to think about what that feels like right now in your soul. Open your eyes for a second. That feeling, this is the narrative that most people in our society have about this topic. That's what most people believe. The paradigm is that there is no hope and that you're going to have to be on this and there's no recovering from this. And tonight I hope that we get to equip you and empower you to believe otherwise, because it's so far from the truth. It is so extremely far from the truth. And that narrative gets put in people's head, and it's so false. You look at, those of you guys all know my dad's story, but those of you guys who maybe on the camera who haven't heard it, like my dad was one of those guys who was like, listen, I know the numbers are high for high blood pressure, but it'll never be me. You know what I mean? Like, he's always that guy who's like, I know the numbers, but it'll never be me. Anybody there? Like, I know the numbers, but not me, right? And then one day he wakes up with a heart attack and spends 4 months in a coma. He gets a quadruple bypass open heart surgery, and on we go to this road of trying to figure out what was going on. All because he had the mentality that I'll just keep living my life because it'll never be me, and those people end up becoming the statistic. It's like, this is why we're here today, because I'm so excited to show you guys how that you can take control over this so much and make sure that you never get here, or you get to be the beacon of light for somebody else that you raise your hand for, to make sure you can equip that person, whether it's a friend, a family member, with information to make sure that they don't have to end up in that position. Does that make sense? You guys with me? So here's the thing. Our goal is to be, I would say, the standard for what natural health looks like. I think that right now, if you look at the 2 avenues, you have our conventional system of doing things, and I look at it as you have the max living way of doing things. I think the conventional way of doing things is failing us, personally. I think that every year the numbers go up, they go up, they go up, and we keep doing the same things, trying to throw a pill at stuff, and we don't help people figure out what the root cause of these issues are, so we keep making the same mistakes versus saying, what is this holistic way that I know that my body can recover and heal from, and how do I walk this path? So everything that we do is designed to redefine, I think, what the standard of health should be. Amen? So I think that if you look at it, 2020 did a lot of things, yeah? One thing I could probably say, in my opinion, is that it distracted us from the real threat. And I think you look at heart disease in general. Do you guys know that heart disease is the #1 killer in our country above anything else? Heart disease kills over 800,000 people every single year. That if you look at heart disease, cancer, lung conditions, all lung conditions, and accidents combined don't equal the deaths of heart disease. Every 1 in 3 deaths is related to heart disease. I mean, you think about these numbers, and you think to yourself, God, that's the freaking pandemic. Like, people are like, we need to be addressing this. And you look at like everything that's going on with this. Why haven't we been putting action in? This has been the last 10 years plus. Why have we not been putting an action in or being an awareness that people know what's going on here so we don't end up here? That's what I'm curious about. Do you guys with me? Like, if the numbers are that big and they continue to be growing, we need to start making an effort to understand what this comes in so we can, because here's the thing, the reason I bring up COVID is this. You guys know one of the top 2 things that lead to heart disease is physical inactivity, so not moving your body, and a poor nutrition. Over COVID, did people move their body more or less? Less. In fact, what do? We closed the gyms off, and we told everybody, stay inside your house. Like, significantly less. Did people eat better or worse during COVID? Significantly worse. DoorDash is thriving. Uber Eats is thriving. They had to put cones in a McDonald's. I watched. They had to put cones in a specific thing because the line was so long over there because everybody wanted to go and stay in their car and drive through. And I'm sitting here like, what the heck is going on? I want to kick the cones over. And we're like, come on. And you think to yourself, like, the top 2 things that lead us here, over this last year, we did it so much worse. So I can't even imagine what the numbers are going to be for this last year of heart disease. Because everything that causes it, we just magnified. You guys with me? So here's the thing. We start to look at this, and the question we have to ask ourselves is, above all else, is the future bright? And I can tell you this. This comes down to one thing. Where is your focus? If your focus is where the paradigm of the media is showing you, if your focus is what the news is telling you, then I think it's a really scary, really dark, really sick future, because that's what is being portrayed. Does that make sense? And I think that here's the beautiful thing, that there is a separate focus where here in Max Living, and if you look at this from like a holistic point of view, I think this can be a phenomenal thing. Because did you know that even though heart disease is the leading killer in our country, did you know that it is 100% preventable? How empowering does that feel? 100% preventable, meaning that everything is within your power to not let this happen to you and your family. If we take the stuff we're going to learn tonight and put this thing into action. By the way, I just figured that, where the heck are all the guys? What is going on here?
You're loving it.
I know. Look at this. This should be the new ladies' night. Look at this. All over again. Those of you guys who are here, no, it's not happening again.
This would be a little different.
Oh, ladies' night. So here's at the heart of what we believe in, the heart of how do you make this a brighter future. In chiropractic, we have fundamental principles. We have like universal laws that we look at of how the body works, okay? The number 25 principle says that the forces of innate intelligence, and by the way, innate intelligence, for you guys, this is, when you wake up every morning, you don't have to think about your heart beating, it just beats. You don't have to think about your food digesting, it just does. When you get pregnant, you don't have to think about growing a baby, that just happens. That is the innate wisdom that God put inside your body the moment you were born, and that is the thing that regulates your body, okay? That's the innate intelligence within you. So the forces of innate intelligence never injure or destroy the structures in which they work. What that basically says is that everything that's within inside of you is there, and it would never injure or destroy you in any way. So think about this. We're gonna take this and look at cholesterol. I think cholesterol has been demonized so much. And we've been taught to think that cholesterol is this horrible thing that is creeping in your arteries and just like clogging things, right? Most people, if you ask them, what do you think about when you hear cholesterol? Like, you either hear like what? Egg yolks or clogging arteries. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Tonight, we are going to give you such a fresh perspective on cholesterol and how that happens. I mean, did you guys know that a large portion of breast milk given to newborns is cholesterol? Why do you think God would put that, like the first thing a baby has to intake when it's going through its nourishment of the first year, neurologically growing, would be a cholesterol would be a heavy portion of that. It literally is used to fuel the nervous system. And Dr. Waz is going to cover a lot of what that means. But just understand that your liver produces cholesterol naturally. If it was so harmful for you, why would your body be designed in a way that your body would start producing this horrible, toxic, unhealthy substance? Does that make sense? Like this, if you, and we're gonna get again. She's gonna get into like the idea behind why, but I want you guys to think about this. It's not what we do; it's how we do it. Okay, so you think about this. When you look at the body, we always say that the cause is the cure. Most times, the cause of the issue is actually the cure of the issue. So I want you guys to say it with me. Say what? The cause is the what?
There.
Cause is the cure.
Cause is the cure. So there is a cause for everything. So I want to kind of go over this concept with you guys about the cause to any disease is our body's inability to adapt. Does that make sense? So our body cannot overcome or adapt, so disease is present. The 5 essentials, how many of you guys have heard of 5 essentials or know that we teach that here? Okay, awesome, okay. So we'll go over these. But these are the basic, fundamental, essential principles that help your body adapt at its greatest potential, right? So if the cause for disease is your body's inability to adapt, putting your energy and effort and living your lifestyle according to the 5 essentials is going to help your body adapt at its best to help your body avoid any type of disease. Make sense? Awesome. So we talk about how important nutrition is for your body and exercise. I think most people understand that. And we also talk about, minimizing toxins and the importance of taking care of your spine and nervous system. And we can't forget about the importance of your mindset and having a growth mindset, especially nowadays when we're constantly bombarded by negative things all day long, right? Our mindset is so incredibly important. And at the heart of everything we believe that our bodies are incredible. They're brilliant, they're intelligent, and they're always doing the right thing at the right time. So I just want to take a minute and kind of be in awe of how incredible our heart is. So everybody hold up your fists just like this. So that's your heart. That's the size of your heart. Kind of small, right? Like this amazing thing that pumps over 2,000 gallons of blood. Like just picture that for a second. 2,000 gallons of blood every single day through your body, pumping oxygen and nutrients to every single cell, taking waste and carbon dioxide away. Just incredible. Beats over 100,000 times every single day, right? And you don't have to think about that once. Like just being in awe of this incredible thing, and knowing that your heart can heal. So we're going to go over, for anybody taking notes tonight, we're going to go over 4 different points of how the heart can heal. So first one is identifying the cause. I think that's one of the biggest differences is we're always asking the question, why? Like, why is that there in the first place? What is causing that? Instead of just covering it up with a medication. So asking that question, removing interference from the nervous system and any other like nutritional interference, we'll talk about that. Moving strategically through exercise, delivering oxygen to your cells, and then balancing the nervous system. So we're going to start with identifying the cause. When we talk about heart disease, I think, so Dr. Mike mentioned this, but I think the number one thing that we first have to clear up is cholesterol. So we're going to go over what exactly is cholesterol, And you guys have heard there's good cholesterol and there's what? Bad cholesterol, right? There's HDL and LDL. And I want to share with you guys that there's actually no such thing as good cholesterol or bad cholesterol. Can you guys say you've been lied to? Say you've been lied to. Okay? There's only necessary cholesterol. So there's cholesterol, there's lipoproteins that are taken from the liver, and not to get like too sciencey here, but they're taken from the liver to the site of injury, and then there's carriers that take that cholesterol back to the liver to be processed. So we need both of these. And matter of fact, without them, we would not be living right now, neither you or I, right? These are very essential and necessary for our health overall. So not good or bad, just very necessary. How many of you guys know that cholesterol is actually a healing agent for our body? Do you guys know that? Cholesterol is actually made in response to inflammation or sites of injury, specifically within the vessel wall, to go to that site for healing. So if we don't have that, our body doesn't have the same repair mechanisms that it should. So no good or bad, just very necessary cholesterol.
Here's the myth busters. So cholesterol has been the enemy, so to speak. So cholesterol isn't what causes problem. It's the oxidation of cholesterol. Okay? Remember that word when you take that home. The oxidation of cholesterol. If you ever like leave an apple out and it starts to turn brown, that's oxidizing of the apple. Okay? So when cholesterol becomes oxidized, that's where it becomes dangerous. That's where it becomes hard. And where this becomes the good and bad, like LDL, HDL, that whole thing, here's what happens. HDL is what takes things from the body and brings it back to the liver so that it can get detoxified out of the body. LDL is what goes from the liver and sends it to the area of injury so they can repair. That's a good thing. Here's why it becomes bad. Right on. I have a whole demonstration for you guys today. It's good. Okay. So here's what ends up happening. So we're going to look at, we have a full, this is going to be an artery wall, okay, where the blood's flowing through. So did you guys know, so like Dr. Wanda said, it's inflammation is the trigger. Inflammation is, this seems like a dead horse tonight. Inflammation is the trigger. So here's why. If you look at specifically sugar, okay, if you look at sugar or inflammatory particles under a microscope, it's like a spiked ball. It's very jagged and sharp. So it happens that when we intake inflammatory things, food, it goes into our body, that goes into the bloodstream, it's sharp, and that begins to cause damage to these sites of the artery, and we start getting these injuries, okay? So what the body says is, hey, we have an injury, we need to send cholesterol to go repair the injury. It's a repairing mechanism. So the body from the liver sends LDL out, and it goes to repair whatever just happened. It's going to go try to repair what this is, and then we're all good. But here's the question. Do we just have one muffin? Do we just have one burger? Like, do we just ever have one? The problem is that the average American 5 to 7 days a week is eating processed food, eating sugar, and drinking soda, right? It's all of that. And if you guys, if you haven't been to our Nutrition 101 class, we dive way into this a lot more. But if you're constantly consuming inflammatory products, what do you think is going to happen if you continue to do this over the course of a 10 to 15 to 20 year span? The body, you're continuing to injure the body, so we get more cholesterol, because we're injuring the body, so the body keeps sending cholesterol, and eventually, if we keep having inflammation, the body starts to get basically that thick and it hard, and it begins to stick because they're dense, and eventually, as we keep doing this, more and more cholesterol begins to build in the body, and then what happens is we look at this under a microscope, and we say, oh my, look at all that cholesterol. That's the problem. When in fact, it was not the cholesterol that was the issue, it was all the inflammation that we intook that created the problem in the first place. You guys with me? The cholesterol was trying to help you the whole entire time. We kept feeding it so much garbage that eventually that began to happen. Now watch this. This is where the mind become blown. If this was a hose, water going through it, and I put all that gunk in there, is the pressure going to get higher or lower? higher, right? Smaller areas, so the pressure goes up. You go in to see your doctor, and the doctor says, hey, you got all this cholesterol that's really building up. We should put you on a cholesterol medication to help you with this so that your body stops sending cholesterol. And I noticed that your blood pressure is kind of high because it has to build up and it can't get through. So now you know what, let's put you on a cholesterol drug, and then let's put you on a blood pressure drug because your blood pressure is getting high. You know what? It's so gunked in there that let's put you on like an aspirin because we got to put you on a blood thinner so we can thin the blood to make it go through. Do you guys see how they like look at this? And now all of a sudden you walk in there, you're on 3 medications walking out. Because instantly, and what they say is, let's ignore this and let's figure out how can I chemically alter your blood to fit through there? Versus addressing, well, what the heck made that come on in the first place? This is where our minds have to go. What created the problem? How do I stop recreating the problem versus doing this? Because let me tell you what, if you end up here, never addressing this, how long do you think you're going to be on these for? And do you think you're ever going to be able to get on less of this, or does that just get on more? Oh yeah, that just builds and builds and builds. And eventually, here's what ends up happening. And by the way, do you guys know that more people actually have heart attacks with regular cholesterol than high? And you know that more people die with low cholesterol than high? Why do you think that is? Statin medication. Because here's the thing, when this happens, they're on so much cholesterol medication altering things but not fixing things that eventually people's cholesterol is balanced because you've chemically dropped it, but you've never addressed the issue, so we end up still having the heart attack. You see that? So here's what ends up happening. How does this happen, all the inflammation? It's called metabolic inflexibility, which basically means you're putting all the stuff that creates inflammation in the body. You're not moving your body. You're putting all the garbage in, and you can basically keep holding on the excess weight so your body can't process. You know that if you have a higher fat to muscle ratio, your liver is working significantly harder to detox and cleanse the body. So what happens is that we end up leading here, and eventually we end up right there. You can ask any pharmacist, statin medication is the biggest scam in the history of medicine. Because if you look at statin drugs, you know some of the most common side effects of statin medication is erectile dysfunction. You know that someone's on a cholesterol medication? I know, yeah. That if you're on a cholesterol medication, a statin drug, you know that the next most commonly prescribed medication is what? Viagra. Wonder why that is. Then you look at a statin medication. What statins end up doing over a long period of time is it actually strips the myelin off of your nerves. And it basically, myelin is like the outer sheath, outer wiring of your nerve cells. So it basically demyelinates your nerves, which makes it harder for the brain to communicate and send signals. Why do you think if you look at statins, there's a large connection between people who are on statin medication for a long period of time and conditions like Alzheimer's, dementia, MS, all these neurological conditions, there's a huge link over a long period of time. Do you know what the percent of people who actually benefit from statin medication is? 3. It should be 0. 3% of people will benefit from being on a statin medication. And I would love to even see how they got that number. But when you start to look at the grand scheme of things, it doesn't do anything to address the cause of it, and it leaves you with so many other problems. Another thing statins do, so have you guys ever heard of CoQ10? So CoQ10 is a very, very essential nutrient for your heart function. Statins actually strip and basically denature the body's CoQ10 levels. So we do a lot of metabolic testing in the office. Okay, so we do a lot of blood testing for patients with certain conditions, and what we find is that if you've been on a statin medication for a long enough period of time, every single time we see dropped and decreased CoQ10 levels. Another reason why this is a huge connection to heart health. You guys see how the grand scheme unfolds, right? So here's what we can do for this. Okay, so what do we do for this? So there are supplements that are very good at supporting the body and are helpful for the body. So curcumin is one that is it's one of the most powerful antioxidant supplements that are there. But I'm going to pre-frame this so I can be careful. is that you don't get to take curcumin and still eat cheeseburgers, right? You don't get to take curcumin and say, listen, I'm going to balance out. I'm going to have this vitamin. So like, just know that if you're going to have curcumin, that's going to help the body to rid inflammation down. It's a very, very strong one, which is really great. How many of you guys have heard of red yeast rice before? So red yeast rice is very, very good at improving the viscosity of blood and helping with circulation of your blood. Also very important. And then what we talked about, if you're on a statin medication for cholesterol, what does it do to your CoQ10 levels? Drops it. So CoQ10 is a supplement that I tell anybody, if you've been on a statin drug or if you're on a statin drug, you have to be on a CoQ10 supplement. It's not even a negotiable thing. You need to be on one. Okay? So like when you look at this thing right here, the bundle of things that are able to support your cholesterol is so vastly important. So understand that regardless of what happened, there's always ways to support the body and to help the body get back. But we have to do two things. Number one, stop recreating the problem and then add in the supportive things to help the body heal, because the body is what? Very regenerative and can heal.
Yes.
Amen?
I heard an analogy once that, like, if you're going to supplement but continue to eat poorly, it's like turning your AC on but leaving all of your windows open. So, like, does anybody realize how expensive that is? It's just not ideal. Okay, so we're going to move on to removing the interferences. So I'll go through that. I want to talk about fat for a little bit, because this is a fun topic. Fat has definitely been demonized as well, I feel like, when it comes to nutrients and things that we're consuming. So I want to say it was about like 40 or 50 years ago, probably more now, where they basically said that fat was like the worst thing that you could consume. So everything became low fat, no fat, zero fat. And that was probably one of the worst things that we could have done for America's health in general. Like, do you guys think that that helped our obesity epidemic or made it worse? Made it worse, right? And like heart disease as well. So fat has like taken the blame for a lot of things, especially when it comes to like plaquing of the arteries and cholesterol. And it's always like, oh, like, let's lower your fat intake. Like, I have an uncle that thinks he can't eat avocados because there's too much fat in them. I'm like, no, you need to eat avocados. That's like the best fat for you. Like, our brains are, 70%
Yep.
fat. Every single cell in your body is layered in two layers of fat. Like, we need to consume fat. I think where the issue is it's the type of fat that we're consuming. Most people understand like bad fats, like margarine, for example. I can't believe it's not butter, because it's actually not butter, right? So that's like a bad fat. Canola oil, that is a very, very processed oil that is fake. It's not even real. It's made from a rapeseed plant. So you guys can probably guess why they changed the name to canola oil. But they completely, like, chemically, artificially changed what it is. In nature, it's actually at room temperature, like a solid oil, but they've changed it so much that canola oil is like easy to bake with and cook with. Vegetable oil, people think vegetable oil is healthy. There's no vegetables in vegetable oil. Completely processed. Anytime you see like partially hydrogenated or hydrogenated oils, unfortunately those are found in a lot of our processed foods, right? If you read that on the ingredients list, put it back. Like, your body has no idea what that is or how to digest or absorb it, and it's toxic and actually stay in your cells and be a huge issue for you for toxicity purposes. So those are the type of fats that we want to avoid. The type of fats that we want to consume and that are great for us are things like coconut oil and avocado oil. Name another one. What's a good one? Olive oil is really good. Yeah. Be careful with certain oils like olive oil, because how do you take a good fat and make it bad? You heat it. You process it, right? So with olive oil, you should never cook with olive oil. You can put it on anything cold, but you should never heat it up. Oils that have a higher temperature boiling point are things like coconut oil. You just want to cook them on more of like a lower to medium so that they're not smoking, because you can turn those oils fat. So just because something is low fat doesn't mean that it's good for you, right? We want to have like high fat, high healthy fat diets because our bodies do very, very well with that. We talked about that already. So I want to talk about, regenerative potential. Dr. Mike talked about this a little bit, but the regenerative potential of our bodies, I think, is even higher than we've ever been told before. Like, your heart has a regenerative potential to heal as long as it's given the right circumstances. Have you guys heard about the regenerative potential of, like, the liver? So did you know you can lose up to, it's like 49% of your liver, and it can actually grow back and regenerate? Like, that's pretty crazy. That's like a salamander tail or whatever, right? Like, that's so cool that our bodies can do that. And recently they found studies that they're finding this in neurological tissue too. So, like, your brain tissue can actually regenerate, even though before the prior story was like, that can't happen. Like, your nerves can't regenerate. And that's actually not true, which is great news for anybody with, brain fog or dementia or any other neurological issues. Like, your body has the capability of regenerating and healing, and your heart is the same way. As long as you're giving it the right circumstances, right, and the right things to allow it to do that.
Can I add something?
Absolutely.
So when my dad had his heart attack, I remember going in with the doctors like far after. So 3 of his coronary arteries were 100% clogged at the time. So 3 of them were just shut off fully. And when the doctors went in, he was like making all these weird sounds, looking at the thing, and I had no idea what he was looking at. I'm like, what are you trying to look at it? And he basically said that his arteries had been clogged for so long that the body had recreated new vessels to channel blood to keep his body going. It blew me away. That your body would literally recreate new vessels to be able to send blood and to still create pathways within the body. Is that incredible? Like, that is the power that is within your body every single second. I thought that was phenomenal.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to talk about when it comes to nutrition. How many of you guys have been to Nutrition 101? Did you guys that already?
A little bit.
Okay, so highly recommend that you go to that. We have it every 6 weeks, and it's just a really great thing. I think that everybody needs to understand, like, the basics of nutrition. I'm going to break it down even a little bit more simpler than that. If I could just break nutrition down into like one sentence, it would be eat more food by God and less food by man. Does that make sense? So, like, food by God is things that are grown from the earth, that graze on the earth, that our bodies were literally designed to intake and that we've been consuming for thousands and thousands of years, right? Food by man is things that are chemically modified, usually GMO, sprayed with herbicides, pesticides, completely altered from their original form. So they call them like frankenfoods. Like, these are not actual nutrients, and we were not designed to eat these foods. We were actually pretty recently, like in this scheme of things, introduced to these foods that are not actually food, and our body doesn't know how to digest them. So I want to talk about a few like raw materials, like nitric oxide. So that's one of the, basically, nitric oxide is a gas that our body produces, an internal gas that our body produces, but it can only produce it if we have certain nutrients that we are consuming. Most people are extremely deficient in nitric oxide. Why I bring this up is because it's completely important for the health, especially of our arteries. So have you guys heard of vasodilation? Does anyone know what that is? So nitric oxide is a vasodilator. So what that means is it helps relax the artery walls. So your arteries are like a muscle that can contract. It helps relax the artery walls, vasodilate, increase blood flow, increase circulation, and decrease blood pressure, which most people need nowadays, right? So decreasing blood pressure. So yeah, we're handing out these test strips right now. Don't actually stick them in your mouth. I thought that you were supposed to do that, but you're supposed to like have saliva on your finger and then like rub on. Super sanitary, I know. You guys all care about germs here, right? So if you guys want to test your nitric oxide levels, like like obviously this isn't a perfect test, but it's a good example of like what you could be deficient in. The color of it should be like a dark burgundy. That means that you have plenty of nitric oxide in your system and you're consuming certain foods that help you produce it. Most people, I would say, are like a light pink. So most people are very deficient in this gas that we should be producing.
Good.
You guys can test
You can try it. Yeah, do it.
You can do it, absolutely. Yeah.
No, just lick your finger, then put it on the test strip.
Yeah. That's what it said to do on the back. I thought it was the lines that you just.
On either side of the strip?
No, there's a little box there.
You'll see a square.
Yeah.
Oh, a little square.
Yep.
It's supposed to be what color?
It's supposed
Dark
to be like
burgundy.
a dark.
Supposed to be a rum
almost
burgundy.
Red. Okay, we're gonna get into high blood pressure. I think understanding.
We're gonna get there. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So with nitric oxide, there's a lot of foods that you can actually consume that have high levels of this that'll help you produce it. So certain things like garlic, pomegranates is one, beets is one, and we'll go through a few different ones. But I used to be of the mindset like that you could get all the nutrients you need from your food as long as you're eating clean. You guys ever heard of regenerative farming before? So they've done a lot of studies where, unfortunately, nowadays, like even organic, like farm to table places, right? Like if you're going to farmers markets, those are better options. But they say you have to eat like 33 apples today to equal the same nutrients, even just like 20, 30 years ago for one apple. So nobody's obviously going to eat that many apples. So even if you're eating a completely clean diet, all organic, you still need to supplement. And that's the issue nowadays is a lot of people need to supplement with certain things if they're not consuming like a perfect diet, or even if they are. Okay, so we're going to talk about high blood pressure, and we'll go over more of the nitric oxide thing in a second. But I think understanding the mechanism of injury for blood pressure is super important. And what's blood pressure, high blood pressure called? The silent killer. Why is it called the silent killer?
There's no signs.
Yes, there's no signs, so we don't feel it, right? Just like cancer is another one, or heart disease itself. Okay, yeah, the silent killer. But would you guys think, like, agree with me when I say that if you're in tune with your body, you know when your blood pressure is elevated, right? Like, you know, like if a bear just walked in the back door right now, like your blood pressure would go up and you would probably know it. That's a really good thing though. That's a good stress response because your body is literally trying to like shunt all the blood away from like your digestive tract to your legs so that you can run, right? Like you don't need to digest a sandwich if you're trying to like run from a bear, right? That's incredible. Like your body knows to do that. But when it comes to high blood pressure, like how many of you guys have heard of white coat syndrome before? Yeah, that's absolutely a real thing. There are so many people that have low levels of anxiety when they walk into any medical office. And you think, okay, so let's say a bear came in right now and you went and got like your blood pressure taken right away. Do you think that it would be high?
Yeah.
Do you think that you would be labeled as like hypertensive?
Sure.
And then you'd be probably put on blood pressure medication to lower that? How many people do you think actually go into a medical office, have this low grade anxiety that increases their blood pressure and falsely get put on a blood pressure medication that they're going to be on for how long? The rest of their lives, which cause like a whole array of other issues. So it's not actually blood pressure, it's pulse pressure. So the normal blood pressure is what, 120 over 80. So the pulse pressure is going to be the difference between those two. So what would that be? 40, right? Okay, I was like, am I doing the math right? Yeah, 40. So 40 is that pulse pressure. That's really what we want to be looking at. So if your blood pressure is elevating, let's say 200 over 160, your pulse pressure is still 40. Do you guys see that? So that's really like the true indicator of high blood pressure or not. So pulse pressure, super. Another thing I want to point out too is like 120/80. Is that really for everybody? Like, I don't believe that. Like, I think that everybody has a different normal depending on their lifestyles, right? Like, depending on their genes, depending on different things. Like, everybody has a different level, and I don't think we can all be based off of one thing. So, 3 things that actually can cause high blood pressure. So we were talking about more of like the cause are sugar, alcohol, and medications. So one of the biggest reasons why people have high blood pressure is not anything to do with their heart and everything to do with their liver. So you have like fatty liver. You guys heard of fatty liver before? You don't necessarily just have to be like an alcoholic to have that. So you're consuming sugar or alcohol, not necessarily like every day, but multiple times, that can like back up your liver and cause you to have those issues. So sugar, alcohol, medications. Sounds like Friday night to some people, right? But anyways.
Friday night.
Okay, next one. Okay, so raw materials to help you decrease your blood pressure, along with living a lifestyle. 3 things that can help with that are a nutrient called L-arginine, which helps open arteries, like I was talking about before, vasodilate the arteries. The bonito peptide powder. You guys heard of any of this stuff before? So this is actually like pretty incredible. Like, we've seen some amazing people's blood pressure drop like 15 points by just changing these things, and obviously their lifestyle as well. Bonito peptide powder is incredible. It's sourced from fish and helps support circulation and relaxation of the arteries. And then grape seed extract helps promote nitric oxide as well in your body. So those are the 3 things I'll do.
Okay. Moving strategically. So I think that there isn't like one exercise you got to do for everybody, right? But I think that moving your body smart is important. Do you guys think that we talked about this over the year of COVID? What they found is that 65% of people took time off from working out. Why do you think that was? Like, really, why do you think that was? So we know that like gyms were closed. Everybody has an excuse, right? Oh, I can't go to the gym. Oh, I can't go out for a bike ride. Oh, I can't. And we make all these like excuses in our brain of why we can't do it. Because a lot of us, I don't know about you guys, but like I have this like perfect thing in my head where I'm gonna go to the gym from this time to this time, I'm gonna do this workout, and you have this whole paradigm set in your brain of what I'm gonna do. The moment someone says that no, you can't do that, we have this misconception in our brain that says like it's either perfect or nothing, right? Oh, well, listen, I woke up 5 minutes late. Oh, I just won't go. Oh, I can't go to the gym and do this. That guy's got my machine. I just won't do it. And we get this thing in our head. We're like, oh, well, I just won't do it. And I think all of us have the exact same excuses because all of us are in the exact same city doing the same stuff, yeah? The difference maker is what do you do about it? This is what I did. So, I say progress, not perfection. So, same concept. I couldn't get out to the gym. So what I do? Took my son, and he was like kettlebell for the day. So we
I
were in
didn't
the
let
backyard.
him like throw.
I know. It's just us. So I literally took him to the backyard, and I threw him around up and down and moved around, and he became my exercise routine. And I literally took the same context, the same situation, I turned it into a daddy-son bonding time, and I got my exercise in. You can see the mindset shift. It has to, and this is something that COVID, no COVID, all this stuff, regardless, through the rest of our lives, stuff's going to come up where you're going to be hit with obstacles. And the question is the way that you overcome that is where is your perspective? How am I going to take the situation and make the absolute best of this, regardless of? Does that make sense? Because if that, like, regardless of, how do I make the best of it? Look at it. He's having a great time. He's so fat. My God, it's crazy. So here's what a lot of the research for cardiovascular health will say that the intensity of the exercise is actually a lot more important. So you want to have a higher intensity, shorter duration. That's going to benefit the specifically cardiac health more. I know with my dad, they told him that, hey, go for a walk and like walk really fast and then walk really slow. Then walk really fast and walk really slow. Like, AKA interval training. You know what I mean? So like, think to yourself, like, could any of us be in our living room and like run in place really fast and then stop? Run in place really fast and then stop. You guys, we could do this anywhere with nothing. Someone says like, well, I don't have access to a gym and I can't afford a gym. Like, can you listen? Have you ever heard of a burpee? If you've heard of a burpee, you don't need anything. Like, there are different versions of breath. She didn't know this. I would take my son. I did like burpee over babies. I would do a burpee and jump over the baby. And like, there's so many ways to get creative to work your body and to do this. And like, again, I would say that if you can sit there and get creative and work your heart, because again, your heart is what? It's a muscle. And how do you strengthen a muscle? You got to work it. You got to build it. You got to challenge it. So to strengthen your heart, a lot of times people go, Dr. Mike, I tried that workout you gave me. I don't think it's good for me because I started like breathing heavy. I was like sweating. I turned like flush. You know, I must be allergic to this workout. I don't think I can do that again. And I'm like, like you gotta like strengthen this thing, right? So your heart is a muscle. What do they say about muscle? If you don't use it, you lose it. We all know these things. So the thing is putting it into action. You guys good? So here's what we're gonna get into the nervous system. This is something that I've actually never talked about with you guys before. So I'm super excited to talk about this because we've learned a lot of new stuff now. So let me ask you guys a question. Do you believe that your thoughts, your conscious thoughts can have an effect on your physiology?
Yes.
Awesome. How many times have you guys said to somebody, hey, calm down, man, you're going to have a what?
10 years.
Right? All hard stuff. How is that? How did I do that, right? Like everyone says, we know this because we say it to people like, man, relax, you're going to give yourself a heart attack. Because what we say is like, if you stress yourself up so much, stress and anxiety so much for so long, physiologically affects your heart. Has anybody ever heard of something called Takotsubo syndrome? Write that down, look that up, and you go home. Takotsubo syndrome. So it's AKA, I think they call it broken heart syndrome. But Takotsubo syndrome is something to where if you have a certain level of stress and anxiety high enough for long enough, you will experience the exact physiological effects of a heart attack. Isn't that wild? Just through your mind and conscious and stress that you can physiologically feel a heart attack, recreate that. So this is what you got to think about is like everything starts right here. You got to change this before we can move forward because everything is right here in the mind. So as we start to go forward, so there's a guy, Dr. Thomas Cohen. He's vice president of the physician's assistant of lots of things. He's a very smart guy. So anyways, Thomas Cohen, look him up. He's a very smart guy. But basically what he says, he's a medical doctor who basically looked at this and said, most heart attacks are likely caused by an imbalance in the central nervous system, or basically the autonomic nervous system that runs your body, which controls the function of your internal organs. Most heart attacks are actually from an imbalance in the nervous system. It's interesting. Like, think about that. Your brain is what controls your heart. Your neurology is what controls all of your organs. If there is an imbalance or a miscommunication from the brain to get to the organ, would that cause a dysfunction or a misfiring or an imbalance in that? Heck yes. So I'm going to walk through something really, really cool. So you got to understand this. I know we're talking about the heart. Every single organ in the body runs the same way. If there is an imbalance in the nervous system, in any organ in the body, you're going to see this happen. So this is why when you guys come in, everyone comes in with a different reason, but when you get adjusted, just know this, when you get adjusted, every time you get an adjustment, the purpose of the adjustment is not to alleviate a headache or a backache. The purpose of the adjustment is to bring balance to the nervous system. Because when you take stress off the spine, you take stress away from the spinal cord, you bring harmony back to the nervous system, so the brain and the body start to communicate more efficiently so that every signal that your body needs of healing communicates more efficiently. That's what's happening every time you get adjusted. The feeling of like feeling better and all that, that's an amazing byproduct that you get. But bringing balance back to the nervous system is why you get adjusted and why you stay getting adjusted, because even if you had no pain, the reason why you continue getting adjusted for a lifetime is because we're continuing to bring balance back to the nervous system constantly. You guys with me, all right? So now watch this. There's a guy named Dr. Henry Windsor. So when your spine shifts out of alignment, we call that a subluxation, right? So when you're subluxated, What that basically means is that a spine is being shoved out of position, causing an irritation or pressure to the nerve, causing a dysfunction to whatever that nerve is going to communicate to. Check this out. So chiropractic was founded back in 1895. Okay, 1895 is when the first chiropractic adjustment was made. In 1921, this medical doctor, Henry Windsor, he came out and was like, listen, you guys are making a lot of claims, a lot of these big stuff, and either you got something really cool here or you're full of it. So I'm going to prove you wrong. Okay, so what he ended up doing is he went in and he did this autopsy report. You guys can look this up as well. Dr. Henry Windsor autopsy report. Okay, this is all over the internet. And what he found was, he said, I'm going to look at, he looked at over 220 dead bodies, read the autopsy report, and said, what did they die of? And let's say that this person died of like liver failure, right? Or stomach failure, or heart failure. What he did was, he traced that nerve all the way back to the spine to see if subluxation was present. Out of 220 autopsies, 212 bodies, there's a direct connection between the diseased organ and a subluxation in the spine. 212. And the other 9 or so people that he found, if you look, we'll go back for a second. If you look at the body, do you see how like nerves branch? And then do you see like these little yellow dots there? How from there, bigger branches happen? These are called ganglions in your spine, where basically they're a bundle where branched more. The other 9, just so you know, was connected to a ganglion, so it was like 1 or 2 levels above. Almost 100% connection of diseased organ to diseased, to a damaged nerve in the spine. This is why when they say like, hey, if your nerves in your neck going into your heart, we have to fix this because it's a direct connection to the heart health, it's been proven. And over this time, since the 1920s, more people have tried to repeat this to make sure this is also true, and it's been done more and more times. So this is something that, it's just so big and so important. So, takeaways. Going forward, here's what you got to look at. So, everybody here, if you know somebody, we're going to do something cool. If you have a friend who you're like been trying to work on to get here, what we're going to do is if they've never had your spine checked, like they need to do that first, right? Because obviously there's direct connections in how in the body heal. Right, we have friends and family cards we're going to give out tonight that you can help somebody get an opportunity to get checked and have just a clear understanding of what's going on. Second 2 things we're going to be looking at is number 1, metabolic testing. So I'm going to talk about this too, and then our next workshop. So if you look at our next workshop, it's the Nutrition 101 we talked about. So on the 8th of June, if you haven't been here to a new class, we're going to put a sign-up sheet that are going to get around. Make sure you get on the sign-up sheet for that class, because we're going to be diving into a lot of fundamental stuff. So Ellie has that sheet. She's going to pass around. Just get your name on there. And a couple bundles now. So if you're somebody who you know you already practice a healthy lifestyle and you need just healthy supportive supplements to promote what you're already doing, so there's different bundles that are going around that you guys should have access to on a piece of paper. And basically, I'm going to walk through them real quick for you. These are bundles that are going to be just generally supportive, good nutrients that you can get. And we're gonna make the orders tonight. So if you guys are looking for any of these are what you need, we're gonna put orders in tonight for everybody. But just general cardiovascular wellness, CoQ10 we talked about, and then garlic and parsley, which is also really good for circulation and health there. Another big one, so cholesterol balance, we talked about the cholesterol bundle. That's going to be really helpful. The cholesterol bundles is there with red yeast rice, curcumin, and some plant sterols. Dr. Lana talked about the nitric acid. So if you're someone who is with high blood pressure and you're like, yeah, listen, I just know that I'm doing everything else really good, this bundle is going to help regulate that more naturally with supplements. So the blood pressure bundle is good. The blood vessel support is somebody who, if you know that you already have plaquing in your arteries, this bundle is going to be very supportive to helping with plaquing in the artery. So those are the 2 separate things you want to watch out for there. So the 2 differences. Now, I'm gonna preface this. So if you're someone who you're like, listen, I don't genuinely know, and I would like to get a deeper understanding of what's going on inside of my body. Over the last couple of months as a team, we've been working extremely hard to advance ourselves in our nutrition in the office. So this last seminar when we all went to Orlando, really exciting. Our whole office is now what we call metabolically certified. So what that means is that as a team, we can literally we do metabolic analyses or blood and urine samples to figure out laser beam focus on what is going on, what is the underlying root condition of the problem. So instead of just throwing supplements at something, hoping it's effective, we test it. So we're launching Max Metabolic. So you guys are the first ones to get to see this and get to hear about this. So what's really cool is there's a company that we're working with where basically that we go through and they do a full metabolic panel of your blood and urine to see where is the problem coming from, where is the dysfunction coming from. We don't just try to guess, we test it to know. So instead of throwing supplements and fingers crossing it, actually running the numbers and say, with your body, how is it processing things? Are you deficient in some vitamins, or are you toxic somewhere? I know that, so we ran this on our team and ourselves. I knew like my body, I had a toxicity area where the reason why I wasn't absorbing things is because I had a toxicity I had to control. So like instead of me continuing to pump vitamins in and my body not being able to absorb it, I was like, oh my God, this makes sense. I need to heal this first, then my body can absorb the vitamins, and now I feel way better because my body actually healed what was going on over here. Does that make sense? But the only way I knew that is because I tested it to make sure. So when you look at this thing here, what we're going to look at, so generally speaking, if you go get testing, it's not cheap, yeah? You get a lot of testing, okay? So it's in a couple of thousands of dollars. So if you get typical testing done, it's about a $2,000 test to get done. And because we have this partnership with the company, we've been able to knock this thing way down to $700. It's pretty phenomenal. So any of our patients, we're able to do full metabolic panel analysis. And what's great is I've worked it in with people to where that's the metabolic test you're going to get, and it's the understanding and the review of it. So the doctor from that company actually breaks everything down with us to say exactly what the consultation is. Okay, so you get the test and the breakdown analysis all for that. So because you guys are here tonight, what we're doing is you're going to get it for $600 if that's something you want to do. So we're putting the order in for the test tonight. So if you're like, hey, listen, I would love to figure out what is that missing link that I just have never been able to pinpoint. Only tonight for you guys, we're doing it for $600. After this, it goes back up to regular. But I think it's just, it helped me so much to be able to identify something versus keep guessing. So if that's you and you're like, shoot, I want to be able to figure out what's happening on the inside. Like, this is where you're going to find Tori afterward. And go see Tori. She's leading this whole thing for us. So go find Tori, and she'll give you all the information you need, help you get set up there. As always, we're going to stick around if you guys have questions. One other thing I want to point out, too, is we are very blessed to be where we are. There's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Jack Wolfson. If you've never heard of him, he's called the paleocardiologist. He practices up in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he's one of the few holistic cardiology people that are out here, that are out in like the United States. People fly from around the country to come see him. So another amazing benefit, if you guys have or need information, you can come talk to me, and I can get you some info for Dr. Wolfson. I mean, just another really amazing resource that we have that we're connected with him as well. So we're gonna hang out, answer some questions if you guys have any. I think that, I hope that you guys took something positive away, that you leave empowered tonight, and that you understand that like people that work sitting here tonight, do you think that if you went home and like break a couple of these things down for them, that would be helpful? Heck yes. So I be the beacon and light in your community, be the beacon in your family, and like help people understand truth and stop resorting to the misconception of drugs and pills, and help them to figure out how to like attack this thing smart. Does that make sense? Cool? Love you guys. Awesome.